Iceland, authorities placed the town of Grindavik under a state of emergency after a volcanic fissure spews lava near a geothermal plant.
Police evacuate residents following threats of lava reaching the Svaxenji power plant. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richie-Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is due to meet with U.S. State Secretary Antony Blinken on region stability.
The House of Representatives is keen to pass RBH 7 this week.
Russian President Vladimir Putin wins fifth term in office.
Northern Mexico shields itself from massive hailstone dropping from the sky.
Spanish tennis star Carlos Alcaraz smashes his win against Daniil Medvedev at the Indian Wells.
Las Vegas, Nevada,
España,
Paris, France,
United Kingdom,
Washington, D.C.,
London Bureau,
Papua New Guinea.
in New York,
Washington, D.C.
Mata ng Agila, Mata ng Agila,
Mata ng Agila International.
Trusted, connected, on point.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is set to meet with United States Secretary Antony Blinken in Manila. This marked the top U.S. official's second visit to the Philippines since August 2022. The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, previously announced that the President and Blinken are due to talks on reinforcing cooperation in the economic sphere between the Philippines and the U.S. Foreign Affairs Chief Enrique Manalo will also meet with Blinken to discuss overall bilateral cooperation in the context of regional issues. President Marcos previously raised this concern with the maintenance of peace in the South China Sea at a joint press conference with Czechia President Petr Pavel in Prague. He highlighted that the Philippines' action to reinforce defense ties with its allies aimed at defending the sovereignty and sovereign rights of the country. Blinken's visit to the Philippines comes amid escalating tensions in the West Philippine Sea Row. China Coast Guard previously launched aggressive actions against routine resupply mission for Filipino personnel stationed in Ayungin Shoal that injured 4 Filipino crew members. The U.S. has condemned China's repeated dangerous maneuvers in the South China Sea.
The Philippines rejected China's latest statement accusing the Philippines of using the South China Sea issue to instigate disputes to undermine peace in the region. Instead, the Philippines stood firm and lambasted China's accusations, asserting the Philippines has never used the South China Sea issue to escalate tensions, mislead the international community, or undermine peace and stability in the region. In a statement released on Sunday night, the Philippines Department of Affairs, or DFA, also responded to the remarks made by Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesman Wang Wenbin. Wang claimed China was the first country to discover, name, and explore Nanhai Zudao, and was the first to exercise sovereign rights and jurisdiction over Nanhai Zudao continuously, peacefully, and effectively. He alleged that after World War II, the Chinese government recovered and resumed the exercise of sovereignty over Nanhai Zudao, which had been illegally occupied by Japan. Nanhai Zudao is known in the Philippines as the Spratly Islands. The DFA strongly denied Wang's accusations, stressing that China's supposed historic rights and sweeping claims in the region are baseless and misleading. The DFA said the Philippines has long had sovereignty and exercised administrative control over Bajo de Masinloc, as well as various features west of Palawan, which now form the Kalayaan Island Group. It explained that these features appeared and were clearly identified in the administrative maps of the Philippines during the Spanish colonial period, including the 1734 Murillo Velarde map of the Philippines. The DFA also stressed that China's claims to historic rights or other sovereign rights or jurisdiction beyond the limits of the maritime entitlements provided by the UNCLOS are without legal effect based on the Philippines' 2016 arbitral tribunal win. The Philippines also urged China to reconsider its unfounded positions and claims.
The House of Representatives is committed to passing its economic charter change bill, known as Resolution of Both Houses, or RBH 7, before Congress adjourns for a month-long holiday break. Senior Deputy Speaker Aurelio Gonzalez Jr. emphasized the importance of adhering to their self-imposed timeline for approving RBH 7 on the third and final reading. He predicted that RBH 7 would smoothly progress through plenary debates without any amendments, following the recommendations of the Committee of the Whole House, led by House Speaker Martin Romualdez. RBH 7 mirrors the Senate's RBH 6 and aims to eliminate restrictions on foreign ownership in public utilities, educational facilities, and the advertising industry, as outlined in Articles 12, 14, and 16.
The Philippines is actively considering expanding its involvement in the United Nations peacekeeping operations, increasing the participation of Filipino women in efforts to uphold international peace and security. Environment and Natural Resources Secretary Maria Antonia Yulo Loizaga emphasized that the country is prepared to enhance its role in UN peacekeeping missions. She pointed to the success story of the creation of the BARM, where women played significant roles as negotiators, researchers, educators, and community organizers. Secretary Yulo Loizaga also highlighted the Philippines' strong commitment to the rules-based international order and its active engagement in regional platforms such as the ASEAN, as well as other global partnerships.
The Department of Science and Technology, or DOST, has forged partnerships with two prominent Canadian universities, the University of Saskatchewan and the University of Alberta, to enhance scholarship opportunities for Filipino students. Through these agreements, the DOST aims to bolster collaboration and facilitate student exchanges in science-related graduate programs. DOST Secretary Renato Solidum Jr. underscored the importance of highly educated individuals, particularly in scientific fields, in driving economic prosperity. He emphasized that the signed scholarship programs with these universities will pave the way for enhanced engagement between the Philippines and academic institutions in Canada.
The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, has implemented voluntary repatriation for Filipinos in Haiti following its declaration of Alert Level 3 in the crisis-hit country. Haiti is experiencing a breakdown in law and order as violence and lootings are being carried out by gang leaders to push Haiti Prime Minister Ariel Henry into stepping down. Currently, there is no report of any Filipino affected or injured by the ongoing security crisis in Haiti. But the DFA, together with the Department of Migrant Workers, or DMW, and Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, announced they are getting chartered flights to repatriate 63 Filipinos. As of date, 115 Filipinos are working or living in Haiti. The Philippine Embassy and the local DMW are already coordinating with Washington, the Filipino community leader, and the Philippine Embassy in Haiti for the repatriation plans. The DFA is also waiting for further confirmation if the remaining Filipinos will return to the Philippines.
The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC, confirms that at least 5 towns in Mindoro have declared a state of calamity due to the effects of El Nino. Out of 5 towns under a state of calamity, 2 towns are from Oriental Mindoro, while 3 belong to Occidental Mindoro. In the NDRRMC report, Occidental Mindoro logs agricultural damage and production losses at roughly 224 million pesos. Governor Eduardo Gadianos says, our initial assessment puts the damage in palay, onions, corn, and other vegetable produce had reached 300 million pesos, and we are just starting, and the phenomenon is just starting, and according to weather forecast, this would last until the middle of the year. We want to extend assistance to our affected farmers, so we want to avail of our calamity funds. To help the damages from the agriculture sector, the Mimaropa region, in which Mindoro belongs, receives a 430 million pesos worth of assistance. Meanwhile, the Department of Agriculture assured that the country's rice and food supply would be unlikely to be affected, as it noted that the affected areas were less than 1% of the total number of farmers who planted rice last year.
There will be a mixed price adjustment on oil products by next week. The Department of Energy said motorists will pay 10 centavos more for gasoline per liter. Diesel per liter, on the other hand, would go down by 10 centavos. Meanwhile, there will be no price adjustment to take place on the kerosene price per liter. Coming up, Putin wins the Russian election. Israel's prime minister calls off the Rafah invasion. And Haiti's healthcare is on the verge of collapse. Stay tuned. Mata ng Agila International will return for more global news.
This portion is brought to you.
Let's get together. Sunday 25. Sunday 25.
Ba't ba napakainit ang ulo mo?
Hindi mainit ang ulo ko. Mainit ang panahon.
Oo nga pala, tag-init na nga pala ngayon. Dahil dyan, may tips kami para sa'yo ngayong Fire Prevention Month.
Bunutin sa saksakan ng mga appliances pagkatapos gamitin.
Iwasan ang pagkakasaksak ng maraming devices sa isang extension cord.
Itabi ang mga flammable items sa ligtas na lugar.
Laging isara ang gas tank kapag hindi na ginagamit.
Magkaroon ng fire extinguisher.
Stay cool and chill.
Huwag makisabay sa init ng panahon.
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. The polls have closed in Russia and the outcome of the three-day presidential elections is in. With no strong opposition candidates, Vladimir Putin has won a fifth six-year term, garnering about 88% of the votes. Thomas Eyelikeness has that story.
The 71-year-old former KGB agent came to power in 1999. If he finishes this term, Putin will become Russia's longest-serving leader in more than 200 years. The Kremlin cast the election as an opportunity for Russians to throw their weight behind the full-scale military operation in Ukraine. Putin's most prominent rival, Alexei Navalny, died in an Arctic prison last month. In 2018, he tried to run against Putin, but his candidacy was rejected. Navalny's supporters urged voters to flood polling stations at noon on Sunday and spoil their ballots for what they call a midday against Putin protest. His wife, Yulia, wrote her husband's name on her ballot. She told reporters she has no message for Putin.
There could be no any negotiations and nothing with Mr. Putin because he's a killer, he's a gangster, he's the person who brought my country to the war and to everything.
In neighboring Latvia, Russian citizens held a protest against Putin outside the Russian embassy. One demonstrator, Anna, says she wishes her country would allow her to express what she thinks about politics. She says she's tired of the fear that grips Russian citizens.
I am protesting against Putin, who took everything from us, who took the future from us.
Protesters staged similar rallies in Europe and North America outside of Russian embassies. Russian election officials estimate voter turnout at more than 74%. Foreign reaction to the election has been predictable. The US, UK, and Germany say elections in Russia are neither free nor fair. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Putin wants to rule forever. And for the people of Russia, the outcome of the vote means the freedom to express any dissent will remain repressed. Thomas I. Likeness from Atanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova believes NATO's campaign against Moscow only helped President Vladimir Putin secure a historical fifth term as Russia's leader. The Central Election Commission says almost all ballots are counted and based on records. Putin already won 87.3% of the votes. But the German Foreign Ministry insists Russia's presidential election is neither free nor fair, stressing that Putin winning the presidential seat again surprises no one. The White House supports Berlin's claim. UK Defense Secretary Grant Shapps describes Putin's landslide victory as stealing another election, vowing that Putin will not steal Ukraine. In rejecting the accusations of the West, Zakharova suggests that Western states and Germany simply could not tolerate the display of Russian unity. She also notes that Germany's Angela Merkel was elected chancellor 4 times in a row, while Berlin's ex-chancellor Helmut Kohl stayed in power for 16 years. Zakharova says the only thing she could agree with Berlin about the election in Russia is that nothing was surprising about Putin winning the election. The Russian spokeswoman also responded to UK Defense Secretary Shapps, asserting that Russia had stolen nothing, unlike the West.
Multiple Ukrainian kamikaze drones hit Domodedovo International Airport, the second largest in Russia, as unverified footage appears to show unscrewed vehicles approaching the airport. Ukraine periodically uses unscrewed aerial vehicles and launches a series of drone attacks in Moscow, along with other regions which belong to Russian territory. In a video posted on social media, an audible buzzing sound, which can be distinctive of drone strikes, are heard while a series of flash hits the roof, which appears to be part of Moscow's Domodedovo Airport. Russia's defense ministry says that its air defenses shot down a total of 35 Ukrainian unscrewed vehicles across its territory, including 4 over the Moscow region. Debris of the said attacks fell, but there were no casualties nor damage logs. The strikes come on the final day of voting in Russia's presidential elections, with President Vladimir Putin solidifying his grip on power for another 6 years.
South Korea said that Pyongyang has fired several ballistic missiles into its eastern waters amid United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken's visit to Seoul for a democracy summit. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida told a parliamentary session that the North Korean missiles landed in the waters between the Korean Peninsula and Japan. No casualties have been reported. The U.S. State Department has called North Korea for its missile launches, citing them as a threat to the region's security. The Democracy Summit is an initiative established by U.S. President Joe Biden aimed at strengthening democracy and promoting respect for human rights. The meeting is scheduled to run from March 18 to 20. Blinken's trip will also include a meeting with South Korean officials to bolster alliances between Seoul and Washington.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has said that the profits accrued from Russian assets held in the European Union will be used to purchase weapons for Ukraine. During a joint press conference in Berlin, French President Emmanuel Macron and Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk reaffirmed the motion to use Moscow's funds in the EU. Scholz, however, did not provide any specific information on whether he was referring to a new initiative or to President Macron's scheme, which was announced in February. Meanwhile, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen suggested using the interest from frozen Russian assets to arm Kyiv last month. Moscow has condemned such actions, emphasizing that seizing the funds or the like would violate international law and undermine the global financial system about the world economy.
Five security force members were reportedly killed by militants that attacked a military post in Pakistan near Afghanistan using a vehicle laden with explosives. Local residents reported hearing an explosion that caused damage to doors and windows in the vicinity at the onset of the attack. The militant group responsible for the attack was not named in the report, but Pakistan has observed a rise in attacks in recent months, with many of them attributed to the Pakistani Taliban. Officials said that the militants are utilizing Afghan territory to stage attacks, straining relations between Pakistan and Afghanistan, which have denied the accusations of allowing their land to be used by militants.
Following a meeting with Syria's foreign minister in the capital, Damascus, the United Nations Special Envoy says the situation in Syria now is extremely difficult. Angel Membreri reports.
United Nations Special Envoy to Syria, Geir Peterson, says fears that all indicators in Syria's situation are pointing in the wrong direction.
As you all know, the situation in Syria now is extremely difficult. I think all indicators are pointing in the wrong direction when it comes to security, when it comes to the economy, and when it comes to the political process.
Peterson says the UN will continue to work on increasing the funding. He says, however, that to get away from both the security and economic challenge, there needs to be progress on the political front.
You have heard my proposal when it comes to the Constitutional Committee. I repeated that today to Foreign Minister Faisal Mekdad. I said that as long as we don't have an agreement between the opposition and the government, we should continue to meet in Geneva and develop the Constitutional Committee and the work of the committee in a manner that could give hope to the Syrian people.
And on that, he says he has nothing new to report about. Now in its 13th year, Syria's war has killed more than 507,000 people and has displaced millions at home and abroad. The government's suppression of an uprising that erupted on March 15, 2011, triggered a full-scale civil war. The war drew in foreign armies and international jihadists. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights says more than 164,000 civilians have been killed. That included more than 15,000 women and 25,000 children. Over 343,000 combatants, including army soldiers, fighters, and pro-Iran groups, Kurdish-led forces, and Islamic State group jihadists, are also among the dead. Angel Membreri for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Tuvalu's newly appointed Prime Minister Feleti Teo is seeking assurances from Canberra that a landmark treaty with Australia will not compromise his country's sovereignty. Prime Minister Teo has expressed concerns about a contentious security clause in the Philippine Union Treaty, which has sparked apprehension among Tuvaluans regarding potential Australian encroachment on their sovereignty. The treaty stipulates that Tuvalu must mutually agree with Australia on partnerships or arrangements with other states concerning security and defense matters. This clause effectively grants Australia veto power over Tuvalu's ability to enter into security agreements with other nations.
Ayaman ako o consult mo o foi pati mo Australia ko demi agaya talia mai ni Australia tulang ako na.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has called off a planned invasion of Rafah in southern Gaza for the time being. He says the attack will not go ahead without civilians being able to leave. Arlene Ocampo has the details.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's comments came after a meeting Sunday with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz in Jerusalem. Netanyahu says ultimately Israeli forces will operate in Rafah, but he gives no hint of the timeline.
Our goal in eliminating the remaining terrorist battalions in Rafah goes hand in hand with enabling the civilian population to leave Rafah. It's not something that we will do while keeping the population locked in place.
Netanyahu has been under intense international pressure to hold off invading Rafah. More than 1 million of displaced Gazans have sought refuge in the city. As far as a peace deal to end the war with Hamas, Netanyahu is emphatic that Israel's security will have to be guaranteed.
If we are offered a peace agreement or a path to peace that makes Israel so weak and unable to defend itself, and our neighbors still adhering to the goal of destroying the Jewish state, then obviously we will set peace backward and not forward. We want to move peace forward.
Meanwhile, Scholz says a deal must be reached to free the hostages held by Hamas and a longer-lasting ceasefire. Arlene Ocampo from Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Niger has announced that it has revoked a defense pact with the United States that allowed Washington to operate in the West African state. In a statement, spokesman Colonel Amadou Abdurrahmane said, and I quote, "The National Council for the Protection of the Fatherland officially denounced the military cooperation agreements linking the country to the United States of America." This is after a senior U.S. delegation wrapped up a 3-day visit to Niamey. During the delegation, the chief of U.S. Africa Command, General Michael Langley, met with several top Nigerian officials. However, failed to secure talks with the country's leader, General Abdurrahman Chiani. Niger's new government has been in a series of cutting ties with Niamey's former military partner since the removal of President Mohamed Bazoum last July. This includes France, which completed the withdrawal of its troops from Niger in December. The United States, however, believes that cutting ties with Niger was not an option for the U.S. The U.S. currently has around 648 troops in Niger, mostly stationed at a desert drone base in Agadez.
Former United States President Donald Trump claims Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is one of the greatest salesmen in history. During a campaign rally in Vandalia, Ohio, Trump says Zelensky is a better salesman than him since every time the Kyiv leader comes to the United States, he walks away with $50 or $60 billion. Trump argues that instead of giving money to Kyiv, the United States should loan money to Ukraine. Since the beginning of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, the United States has provided Kyiv with around $113 billion in military, economic, and humanitarian aid. Last week, the Biden administration vowed that Washington would send a new military aid package to Ukraine worth $300 million.
Amid a violent gang uprising leading to the Haitian Prime Minister's resignation, the country's healthcare system teeters on collapse, leaving victims without medical aid. Over the past 2 weeks, hospitals have been targeted, doctors have been murdered, and essential medical supplies have dwindled to nothing. Presently, only a single public hospital in Haiti's capital remains operational, but even its future is uncertain.
On n'arrive pas à trouver une structure de référence. Et quand on arrive à trouver la structure de référence, donc soit qu'il n'y a pas assez de place pour recevoir les patients, d'accord? Mais aussi, certaines fois, on a des soucis aussi en termes d'accessibilité par rapport à la route aussi. Certaines fois, s'il y a des tirs, donc on ne peut pas.
The ongoing conflict between heavily armed gangs and security forces has paralyzed Haiti's capital, marking the worst outbreak of violence the nation has faced in decades. Despite hopes for a cessation of hostilities, the violence persists as political factions vie for control of the government.
Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro accepted PSUV party's official nomination to be its candidate, marking his will to seek a third term in July 28 presidential elections.
Pero a mí nadie nadie me va a sacar de las calles, porque vamos al gran movimiento popular para la gran victoria del 28 de julio. Nada ni nadie nos arrancará la victoria de las manos.
President Maduro has been presiding Venezuela for over 11 years, marked by economic crisis and U.S. sanctions. 7 million people fled Venezuela as its GDP plummeted by 80% within a decade. Meanwhile, residents of Caracas share divided opinions regarding Venezuela's presidential elections. Some support President Maduro's campaign, but some insist Venezuela needs a new president.
Un cambio Maduro, a pesar de todo lo que nos ha pasado, las sanciones, del COVID, Maduro siempre estuvo ahí presente, siempre ha estado ahí como un role, a pesar de que la gente no lo ve así, pero Maduro ha estado allí y sigue apoyándonos, así la gente no lo vea, él nos sigue apoyando. Y el acto de hoy fue demasiado hermoso, y hoy digo sí, voy por Nicolás.
El de ahorita no, porque ya llevan, qué sé yo, más de 10 años en el poder, no han hecho nada. Siguen igual, entonces necesitamos un cambio para lo mejor.
Ya el tiempo que él tiene, ya tú mandas, de ahí tiene que darle chance a otro y que rinda las condiciones, ¿me entiendes? Porque lo que no hiciste en todos estos años no lo va a hacer ahora, ¿me entiendes?
Italian Competition Authority fines TikTok $11 million, saying that the application had failed to sufficiently protect minors. The fine has been imposed on 3 units of China's ByteDance group, specifically Ireland, UK, and Italy's TikTok Technologies. In a statement, a CGM said that the company has failed to implement appropriate mechanisms to monitor content published on the platform, particularly those that may threaten the safety of minors and vulnerable individuals. AGCM added that potentially dangerous content is promoted through the application's recommendation system, highlighting the French Scar Challenge, where children violently pinch their cheeks to create bruising, a phenomenon explained by numerous TikTok tutorials that has caused concern in the education and health sectors. Earlier in the week, the U.S. House of Congress overwhelmingly approved the House bill that threatens a nationwide ban if TikTok fails to divest from its parent company. In a different incident, the EU has wielded a powerful new digital law to press TikTok, mitigating the risks of the application's generative AI to the elections. Up next, Iceland's volcanoes erupt for the 4th time. Massive hailstones rain down on some parts of northern Mexico. And an active shooter kills 3 in New Jersey. Mata ng Agila International will be back after a short break.
Si Jihan, masayahin, maalaga, mapagmahal, at punong-puno ng sigla. Pero nang dahil sa di maipaliwanag na pangyayari, buhay kaya niya ay mauwi sa kawalan ng pag-asa? Abangan ang kwento ni Jihan sa 1 Liter of Tears. Malapit na sa Net25.
For the fourth time in many months, a volcano on an Icelandic peninsula has erupted. Lava from a new volcanic fissure steadily advanced on Sunday, but the eruption's intensity has decreased. Rex Dulay has the details.
Icelandic police declared a state of emergency shortly after the eruption on Saturday evening. The Icelandic Met Office says response workers are monitoring the lava's advance, which he described as slow and steady since Sunday morning. Authorities say the lava came to within 200 meters of the water distribution pipe coming from the Svartsengi power plant. Local media on Saturday evening reported that Iceland's famed Blue Lagoon geothermal spa had been evacuated, as well as the fishing town of Grindavik. The roughly 4,000 residents of Grindavik had been allowed to return to their homes on February 19th, after having been evacuated on November 11th. Only about 100 chose to return. The eruptions on the Reykjanes Peninsula have raised fears for the Svartsengi power plant, which supplies electricity and water to around 30,000 people on the peninsula. The plant was evacuated and has been run remotely since the first eruption in the region. Dikes have been built to protect it. Rex Dulay for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Massive hailstones have damaged some parts of northern Mexico and severe weather to the south-central United States. Residents of Sabina shield themselves from hailstones that are larger than a baseball. Videos circulating on social media show massive hailstones smashing cars and shattering windshields. Authorities advise its citizens to refrain from driving during the storm to avoid road accidents. Meanwhile, the Storm Prediction Center disclosed that supercells have formed in Mexico during the late afternoon and early evening hours.
In New Jersey, an extremely dangerous suspect is now in custody after allegedly shooting 3 family members dead. Carlo Valdez reports.
Following an hours-long effort to detain him and leaving a trail of violence that set off shelter-in-place orders in 2 states, shooting suspect Andre Gordon surrendered peacefully. This, according to Trenton Police Department spokesperson Lisette Rios. 26-year-old Gordon began the day by carjacking a vehicle in Trenton before driving some 65 kilometers to northern Philadelphia. Gordon is believed to be homeless. Police say the suspect killed 2 people identified as his 52-year-old stepmother and his 13-year-old sister. Bucks County, Pennsylvania District Attorney Jennifer Shorn says 3 others in the house, including a minor, managed to hide as Gordon went through the house searching for them. The suspect then drove to a nearby residence where he broke in before shooting and killing a 25-year-old woman. Shorn says the woman was the mother of Gordon's 2 children. Gordon bludgeoned the woman's mother with the butt of his rifle. She is expected to recover. Driving to a nearby discount store, the suspect carjacked a Honda vehicle from a 44-year-old man before fleeing. The man was not injured. The suspect then drove across the state line back to Trenton, where police believed he had barricaded himself in a 3-story house. Later on Saturday, Gordon was located at another location in Trenton. Trenton Police Director Steve Wilson said Gordon was uninjured and walking in the street when a patrol officer approached him. Carlo Valdez for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
In drought-stricken southern France, locals are up in arms over a golf course project. Thousands gathered at the site on the weekend to protest its development. Jessica Bautista has more.
The demonstration takes place on the outskirts of Perpignan, where developers are planning to build a golf course. About 4,000 people gather at the site in the parched region of southern France. They say they want to make sure what little water is left is used for the greatest number of people. The demonstrators say for the past year, they haven't been allowed to fill swimming pools and have been told to conserve water at home. Many say the golf course is a project that is completely out of date. Work on the course began last year. It will be built on about 180 hectares of land and includes a clubhouse, hotel, and about 600 housing units. Opponents are taking legal action in a bid to stop the development. Jessica Bautista for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Sunday marked the return of bullfighting in Mexico City. It's the first time since June 2022 that the bloody sport has been allowed in the Mexican capital. Percy Parlade reports.
The crowds in the arena love it. Animal rights protesters hate it.
bullfighting had been prohibited in the capital until last month when Mexico's Supreme Court overturned the ban. While thousands inside the stadium watched matadors dodge charging bulls, activists protested outside. Police stopped demonstrators from going into the stadium. Some of the protesters dressed up as animals. They reject the argument that bullfighting is a tradition. They say something that hurts and mistreats an animal can't really be a tradition. The Supreme Court has yet to make a final ruling on bullfighting. Elsewhere in the country, a handful of Mexican states have banned the sport. Percival Parlare for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Hundreds of farmers paraded through the Spanish capital of Madrid on foot and by tractor on Sunday, blocking streets and snarling traffic. It's the latest protest over the crisis facing Spain's agricultural sector. Estela Dominique reports.
Spanish local media reports the protest remains relatively peaceful. The farmers want better prices for the commodities they produce. They complain about unfair competition from cheaper imports. Farmers are also upset with strict environmental regulations the European imposes on them. Rallied by their trade union, farmers carried banners proclaiming, "We're not delinquents," to the sound of horns and whistles. One decorated his tractor with a mock guillotine. They say the rules make it difficult to turn a profit. The Spanish government has made some concessions, but agricultural groups say they don't go far enough. Farmers in Spain and other European countries have staged several protests in recent months. Estela Dominique from Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Palestinians living in makeshift camps in Rafah have an additional health concern to worry about: garbage piling up. Julian Bukayan tells us more.
Rubbish is piling up at this camp for the displaced people in Rafah, and it is threatening people's health. Growing mountains of trash stand side by side makeshift tents where people sleep. Dwellers say sewers are infested with mosquitoes which bite people and transfer infections to others. Flies feast on trash, another threat of spreading disease among displaced Palestinians. And from where they fetch water to drink, rubbish is seen floating. Residents complain of foul smells. They also worry about illnesses among children, many of whom are always suffering from colds. All these on top of lack of food and water. More than 5 months of war and an Israeli siege have led to dire humanitarian conditions in the Gaza Strip. The United Nations has repeatedly warned of looming famine for the coastal territory's 2.4 million people. Julian Bukayan from Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, has issued a critical warning against the use of tap water for nasal rinsing. The CDC found 10 patients contracted a deadly brain-eating amoeba after nasal rinsing using tap water in neti pots. 3 of the victims of the acanthamoeba infection virus died. Another 7 people suffered severe illness and were hospitalized. The deadly amoeba acanthamoeba is a single-celled organism that can spread to the brain and kill its victims. Acanthamoeba lurks in lakes, swimming pools, and tap water. The CDC recommends using boiled, sterile, and distilled water for neti pots.
The World Health Organization and the United Nations Children's Fund collaborate to offer a new free online course that aims to safeguard children's health. This amidst the challenges posed by environmental pollution and climate change. Jeff Sanidad has the details.
The free online course aims to equip healthcare providers with practical knowledge and resources. This to recognize and mitigate effectively the risk of pollution and climate change that jeopardize children's health. This collaborative course by WHO and UNICEF provides an in-depth exploration of children's environmental health. It covers topics of global concern including air pollution, climate change, e-waste, lead, pesticides, and other hazards affecting children's well-being. Participants will gain valuable insights and practical strategies to enhance their capacity in this critical area of healthcare. The course addresses the health sector's pressing need, where many providers have limited knowledge to recognize, assess, and manage environment-related disease in children. Through tailored training materials and resources, healthcare professionals will be equipped to better address these challenges in their local context. UNICEF and WHO affirm that every child has the fundamental right to grow up in a safe and healthy environment. Jeff Sanidad, Washington, D.C. for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
AI weapon scanning firm Evolve Technology has backtracked on claims that its scanners have been tested by the UK government. Last February, the firm released a statement including the claim that the National Protective Security Authority, or NPSA, was among its testers. British state media said that Evolve updated its press release, citing that an independent company had tested and validated the firm's scanner under NPSA standards. Evolve claimed it produces very intelligent scanners designed to replace metal detectors. This is through identifying people carrying hidden firearms, knives, and bombs. They added that its scanners detect the signatures of concealed weapons such as metallic composition, shape, and fragmentation.
New York City welcomes a new immersive art experience where visitors are fully immersed in lights and sound installations. Dubbed as the place where art meets technology, the $50 million Mercer Labs project promises to reinvent art with a mesmerizing sensory experience. Instead of looking at the exhibit, visitors can touch and interact with the work within multiple experimental spaces. Mercer Labs project co-founder Roy Natrum says they use technology as a tool to break limits and create new technologies.
And the last 5 years, we decided that we would like to do a new museum, a new approach of museum, a space that people can be engaged, immersive exhibitions, but do it very seriously and take it to the next level. You know, every museum, every gallery, you cannot touch the work. We want people over here to touch the work, to interact with the work. And so, for example, we have a 4D sound installation that is mind-blowing. We did it with Monom and 4D sound, and we create like a hologram, sound hologram. So we take it from every direction, and the smell and the sense. We want to touch all those moments because we want people to appreciate life.
Coming right up, the French Parliament slows down fast fashion. Thousands gather to run the LA Marathon. And Carlos Alcaraz ends his trophy drought. Catch more news in sports and entertainment when we return.
Ba't ba napakainit ang ulo mo?
Hindi ba init ang ulo ko? Mainit ang panahon.
Oo nga pala. Tag-init na nga pala ngayon. At dahil dyan, may tips kami para sa'yo. Ngayong Fire Prevention Month.
Bunutin sa saksakan ng mga appliances pagkatapos gamitin.
Iwasan ang pagkakasaksak ng maraming devices sa isang extension cord.
Itabi ang mga flammable items sa ligtas na lugar.
Laging isara ang gas tank
kapag hindi na ginagamit. Magkaroon ng fire extinguisher.
Stay cool and chill. Huwag makisabay sa init ng panahon.
Sino kaya sa mga tara-gamers nating taxi drivers ang didiretso ang biyahe hanggang Jackbox Round at magkakaroon ng chance sa manalo ng 180,000 pesos? Totoo ba yun, basta driver, sweet lover? Yes, sir. Anong tawag sa wika ng Austria?
Si Mandarin po. Saya lang, sir.
Ba't ka masaya?
Parang mali.
This is Tara Game!
Agad!
Let's get together. Sunday 25.
France's parliament on Thursday backed a string of measures making low-cost fast fashion, especially from Chinese mass producers, less attractive to buyers. Catherine Messina reports.
France's parliament backed a string of measures which include a ban on advertising for the cheapest textiles and an environmental charge slapped on low-cost items, making fast fashion, especially from Chinese mass producers, less attractive to buyers. The vote makes France the first country in the world to limit the overabundance of fast fashion by law. The French clothes market has been flooded with cheap imported clothes, while several homegrown brands have declared bankruptcy. But the main arguments put forward by Horizons were environmental, such as textiles accounting for 10% of greenhouse gas emissions. A prime example of intensive fashion production mentioned by Horizons involves Chinese company Shein and its 7,200 new clothing items per day. France will apply criteria such as volumes of clothes produced and turnover speed of new collections in determining what constitutes fast fashion according to the law. Fast fashion producers will be forced to inform consumers about the environmental impact of their output. A surcharge linked to fast fashion's ecological footprint of €5 per item is planned from next year, rising to €10 by 2030. However, the charge cannot exceed 50% of an item's price tag. The proceeds from the charge will be used to subsidize producers of sustainable clothes, allowing them to compete more easily. An initiative brought by left-wing and Green Party deputies to include minimum penalties for producers breaking the rules, as well as import quotas and stricter workplace criteria in the industry into the new law was struck down. High-end fashion is a cornerstone of the French economy, thanks to leading global luxury brands like Louis Vuitton, Chanel, Hermès, Dior and Cartier. But the French lower-end fashion segment has lost ground to European rivals Zara, H&M, and more recently to China's Shein and Temu. This is Catherine Messina from London, United Kingdom for Madanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
With the second largest number of runners in Los Angeles marathon history, the annual race draws a field of 26,000 participants. In Century City, California, Eva and Alan Basalyahe filed this report.
Kenyan men's runner Dominic Ngeno and women's Stacey Ndiwa are the winners of the 39th Los Angeles Marathon.
For Dominic, this is his first time in LA, while Stacey returns to make good on her promise to defend her 2023 title.
Yes, I feel today good. I'm so happy about the race because I won again. This year I prepare well. It is not like last year. That's why I improved my personal best for today.
The course was very difficult for me, but I used to watch this race since 2022, and I was well prepared. I was doing my training in an early place. Even though the course was not good, but When I was in 30 kilometers, I decided to break away. I want to say thank you for the people of Los Angeles. The city is very good, the city is very beautiful, and I'm so happy. And I thank the guys who come to cheer us in the streets of Los Angeles. I say thank you so much.
Proudly posting results of 2 hours 11 minutes for Ngeno and 2:25:28 for Ndiwa, the day's champions led fellow Kenyan runners to collect the majority of marathon medals.
Competing again after a recent injury, top U.S. women's finisher McKenna Morley turned in a respectable time of 2:30:24 and successfully added another achievement to her growing marathon resume.
I wasn't able to do the U.S. Olympic trials in February due to an injury, so kind of came into this with a pretty short, marathon build, but I was, really happy to be on the start line. So I think, just to be able to get this race done, I'm healthy, and, finish it strong, being first American really means a lot. And honestly, at the end, the crowds were what got me to that finish line. I thought I might walk it in, but they got me to run it in, so we're good. Yeah.
Aside from her prize money for being the women's champ, Stacey Ndiwa also claimed the $10,000 bonus for being first to cross the finish line.
When asked how she felt about it, Ndiwa stated simply, "I'm so very happy."
Reporting from Century City, California, Eva and Alan for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
World number 2 Carlos Alcaraz defended his Indian Wells title with a straight set win over Daniil Medvedev in a repeat of last year's finals. Vin Pasqua has the score.
Alcaraz beat the Russian world number 4 7-6 and 6-1 to claim his first title since Wimbledon. The Spaniard was returning from an ankle injury which forced him to retire from his opening match at the Rio Open last month. Alcaraz entered the Indian Wells with a 6-3 record on the season, but the number 2 player in the PIF ATP rankings emerged from a star-studded field in the California desert with the trophy and restored confidence. Alcaraz and Medvedev also met in the Indian Wells final 1 year ago when the former won 6-3, 6-2. The two-time Indian Wells champion took a 5-3 lead in their head-to-head rivalry after a championship performance. Alcaraz was not as sharp early on as he was in the semifinals when he ended Jannik Sinner's perfect 16-0 start, but slowly found his footing as Medvedev broke in his first return game of the match and was making uncharacteristic unforced errors. The Spaniard showed the incredible athleticism and shot-making that has earned him millions of fans across the globe. Many rallies were adventures with the players' sneakers squeaking on the court as they quickly changed directions to adjust during the thrilling points. The world number 4 Medvedev will now head to Miami where he will defend his title, while Alcaraz is keen to maintain his momentum in Florida.
Carlos Alcaraz.
Pasqua for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
In the NBA, the Mavericks fight back from a 13-point deficit in the fourth quarter to end the Nuggets' 5-game winning streak. Luka Doncic scored 37 points and Kyrie Irving hit a left-handed floater at the buzzer as the hosts, the Dallas Mavericks, withstood a fourth-quarter rally to beat Denver 107-105, snapping the Nuggets' 5-game winning streak. Denver rallied from a 13-point fourth-quarter deficit and led 105-102 before Doncic's three-pointer tied with the game with 25 seconds left. After Jamal Murray's shot on Denver's final possession came up short, Dallas called timeout to set up Irving's game winner. Irving finished with 24 points and 9 assists for Dallas, which recorded a season-high 22 offensive rebounds. Derek Lively II had 14 points and 8 rebounds, while P.J. Washington Jr. grabbed 11 rebounds. Murray scored 12 of his 23 points in the fourth quarter to lead the Nuggets. Michael Porter Jr. added 20 points. Nikola Jokic had 16 points, 11 rebounds, and 7 assists. Aaron Gordon scored 11 points, and Christian Braun and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope chipped in 10 apiece. The Mavericks played without forward Josh Green, who is expected to miss multiple weeks due to a right ankle sprain.
Kleba to inbound. Kleba looking in for Irving. Irving for the win! Oh my! A southpaw finish from Kyrie Irving! Just absurd!
That is one of the nastiest games I have seen in a while, and to have that type of finish from Kyrie Irving.
Kleba to inbound. Kleba looking in for Irving.
Well, it's only Monday, and to help you start the week, here's a quote from American comedian and satirist Dave Chappelle. You know, to be able to do something great in your life, you're gonna have to realize your failures. You're gonna have to embrace them and figure out how to overcome it.
I think we can all admit we have a fear of failure until we realize that they are essential to get to our hopes and dreams.
It's really the bumps and the obstacles and the struggles that make us stronger as human beings. If you happen to still be on the road right this moment, please don't forget to tune in to Agila FM 95.5.
You can also catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richielago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point. Thank you for choosing Mata ng Agila International as your trusted news source, keeping you connected to the world and on point with stories from around the globe. Follow, like, and subscribe to @Net25 TV.